Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. She was just a girl with a whole life ahead. Didn't realize the wolf was already fed. You saw him watching, you knew what he was, but you looked away. Yeah, that's what cowards do. He had a history, a record, a name. Every single person knew his game, but nobody called it, nobody spoke, and a little girl's life went up in smoke. Now all you can do is a walk of shame. That's on you, that's on you. You protected the predator, not the child. Now her voice is silenced and the truth runs wild. You carry his guilt like a stone on your chest. You chose his comfort over her life. Confess, all you can do is the walk of shame. He recognized a pattern, he's done this before. He made sure there would be no encore this time. No witness standing, no small voice left, just silence where there should have been breath. And you who whispered, you who turned blind, tell me what kind of peace you find. You knew he liked them young, you knew his face, and you let him back in. There's your disgrace. Now all you can do is a walk of shame. That's on you, that's on you. You protected the predator, not the child. Now her voice is silenced and the truth runs wild. You carry his guilt like a stone on your chest. You chose his comfort over her life. Confess, all you can do is a walk of shame. Some of them called out, raising their voices, but those who held her, they made their choice. The ones who shared a table, shared her hall, said nothing, did nothing, let her fall. For walls in silence, no place to hide. The ones who should have saved her let the monster inside. So now we rise up and say her name. We will not let her be erased by shame. We are the ones who will carry her light. We are the ones who will fight this fight. Protect the children, it ain't hard to do. Stand up and speak out when you know the truth. The predator depends on your silence to win. We are done, we will not let him in. Now all you can do is a walk of shame. That's on you, that's on you. We protected the children, you protected him. Now you live with that choice until the end. We carry her story, we carry her name, and all you can do is a walk of shame. Walk of shame, walk of shame. Silence is betrayal. Every killer depends on your silence. Walk of shame.
Live on the air, Trial Junkies United presents Justice After Dark with your host, Z.
Thank you, Doc, so much. And we apologize, everyone. All of a sudden, one of the computer programs ate our sound. It happens. And if we didn't have a sound issue, you wouldn't know it's us. And yes, I know why I'm a little dark. Forgot to turn on some lights.
Oh,
Woo!
there we go.
I got it, Doc.
There's my beautiful Z.
Oh, thank you, sweet pea. I appreciate it, Doc. You're awesome. Thank you guys for being here. Southern Gal, Josh, therapist, my lovely mods, Fala and Irish, Amy, the Luna Fairy, and Hellcat, and if I haven't got anybody, I apologize, but we're late. So we're going to jump in and get started, because this case, when it first came out, it bothered me, and it still bothers me. But greetings to our trial junkies, our truth seekers, and our justice warriors. I'm Z, your storyteller in the wilderness of injustice, with my ride or die Doc riding shotgun as we navigate the darkness where the predators hunt and the system fails. And we're ready to shed the light on the forgotten stories that society prefers to stay buried. So buckle up. The road ahead is really rough, and we're going to guide you through another part of this nightmare they call our justice system. Doc, are you ready for this one?
Oh, I was ready for the nightmare to be over, and now we can continue with the show.
Yes, you're right. So let's get started. This is about Ziyah, and this is the last selfie, you guys, she took. So before we talk about charges, plea deals, sentencings, hearing, we need to talk about the girl. And her name was Ziyah Harris. Her family called her Tuda. She was a 13-year-old middle school student from Detroit's East Side, a kid who rode the bus to school, wore clear-framed glasses, kept hair in 2 braided puffballs, and showed up every single day. Her school records had no unexcused absences, none. No explained gaps. She went to school. She came home. Until one day she didn't. People who knew Ziyah described her as incredibly sweet, a rule follower who always asked permission before doing things. She was the kind of kid who checked in. She followed the rules. She showed up. And that matters, because this is going to reveal how much effort that this, I'm not even going to call him a man, put into isolating her. And that's what happened. But this is Annette Harris. This was her grandmother. But her grandmother legally adopted Ziyah in 2016. So she became her mother. She keeps saying she's her guardian or her grandmother. No. If you adopted the child, Ziyah, now I was doing so good. Ziyah. I was doing so good with her name. And then you know what? You have a few little issues and you get fumbled.
Yeah. Yeah. It'll be okay.
Oh, I'm fine now. Now that I have you here helping me out, Doc. But Ziyah, she adopted her in 2016. So she became her mother. And this is important. Now, her actual biological mother struggled with addiction. And this was Kenyatta, and this was Annette's daughter. And there's talk, because this on Facebook, there are a lot of people, even on YouTube, that followed this case locally. It didn't get the national attention it should have, but locally, people were on it. And so there's talk that even her mother had suffered from being preyed upon as a child. In fact, kind of a family affair. Yeah, we'll get there. Now, this is her father, her biological father. He was older than her mother, and he actually was married when he had an affair with this girl and had this baby. And so when Annette was going to adopt the child, he signed over his rights so that she could adopt Ziyah when she was around 2. He has since passed away, so he's not able to actually give you his side of the story. And thank everybody that's coming in. We got late, so I'm not taking the time to shout everybody out. And apologies for that. We love you all for being here. But this is a big story and we got to tell it. This is Ziyah and her grandma. And on some of the YouTube channels, they have covered this locally, like I said, and it's the Harris and Gamble families. And there is a lot of predator history running through the family. They say Annette herself was a victim when she was young. Yeah. She had a brother. This is him. And he's on the registry as a 3-tier offender. He lives in Ohio now. But Ziyah and her brother, I'm sure, knew my uncle. And he was around, and that's one thing we're going to talk about, everybody. When you have a predator that preys on children in your family, they should no longer be family. I'm sorry. That's when you cut people out. I'm just going to say it plain. If you have a predator that preys on innocent children, they should no longer be part of your family.
Cut the herd.
Yes, definitely time to cut the herd. Ziyah and her brother were living with Annette, but her brother eventually ran away to live elsewhere. And it was said that he had some conflicts with the guy that eventually messed with Ziyah. But Ziyah maintained, like I said, great grades. Her teachers liked her, and she got along with almost everyone. She did have one classmate that there was some conflict with. So Annette pulled her out of after-school programs. So that decision meant that Ziyah had to come straight home at 3 o'clock every day. No more after-school stuff. But on January 9th, with no after-school activities and no waiting, straight home, she didn't arrive. So let's look at what happened. She was also a very active child on social media, did dances and songs. She was 13 years old. She was having fun, always online, always connected, always had her phone. She loved TikTok. But on January 9th, 2024, that activity abruptly stopped. No new posts, no messages, no contact with any friends or family, ever again. Ziyah was not a headline first. She was a child first. Tonight, we're going to honor that by telling her story the right way, from the beginning. And to understand what Ziyah came into contact with and the danger she was in, you have to understand who Jarvis Butts was and how he got into her life. Yeah, this sleazebag. Sleazebag had a prior conviction for criminal sexual conduct involving a child, a conviction that put him in Michigan State Prison for more than 8 years. So he was already an offender, a child creeper. He was paroled in 2012, and he was on the sex offender registry. He had a documented history of targeting children by first building relationships with their mothers. And that's according to the prosecutor. And her name was Kim Worthy. And I might have hit the wrong button.
Oops.
Let's see if that works. There you go. Okay, I'm good. Worthy put it plainly when charges were first filed. She said, Mr. Butts targeted and befriended women to gain access to their young daughters. He was a classic and expert groomer and pedophile. Butts got access to Ziyah through her family. Who? This is her aunt, Shannon Harris. Now, Shannon, it was said on an interview that she said she was 19 when she met the sleaze bucket. And the little sleaze bucket apparently told her that, he had been in prison and what he'd been in prison for. And I'm sure he gave great excuses because Shannon, even though she says she was 19, there are people that said she was younger. I'm just saying, I don't know. Just putting it out there. But she's had 5 children with this sleazebag, knowing he was a child creeper. And that relationship is what brought him into Ziyah's orbit, giving him familiarity, trust, and most importantly, unsupervised access to the home where she lived with Annette, because a lot of the time, Shannon and her kids lived there. And here's what Shannon said about it in her own words during an early community live stream interview before the arrest and before the full investigation went public. She was asked directly if she knew the sleazebag was a sex offender. Her answer, when she met him, she said at 19, he told her about his background. He told her. She knew. She continued the relationship. Her framing at the time was, if society can give you a second chance, why can't someone else?
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Like, ew.
Yeah.
Some say she was younger, like I said, but Annette already had her brother coming around her family, who was also a child creeper. And now her daughter is dating a child creeper. And like I said, 5 kids with him. And he was even dating other women at the same time. At the same time. And think about that. He had children with other women. One of them was named Angel. I'm not sure how many kids she had. At the time of the trial, when he turned himself in, he supposedly had a fiance. Yeah, supposedly. Who, oh yeah, we'll get there. Okay. But here's a picture of Shannon and Jarvis together. Aren't they just so cute? Yeah. Yeah. But I have questions. You knew this man was a convicted child sex offender. He told you himself. The question you ask yourself was whether society deserved to give him a second chance, not whether the child in your life deserved to be protected from him. Those aren't the same questions. And only one of them had Ziyah's name in it. This is not a woman who was deceived about who the sleaze bucket was. This is a woman who received the information, even if she was young, and made a choice, and then put children in his orbit. And here's the part that should stop everybody cold. The people in that household knew that that sleaze bucket had a criminal history. They knew he was a convicted child creeper. They knew he was on the registry. He wasn't a stranger who slipped through the cracks. He was a man with a known predatory past who was allowed regular contact with a child, walking right in the front door. Think about that. Now, at Christmas of 2022, Annette bought Ziyah a tablet. She monitored it. She checked it. She found nothing concerning. What she didn't realize is that she had no way to see was that the abuse had already been going on for 3 months. The text message record starts in September of 2022. She didn't get the tablet till Christmas. On a phone number registered to Ziyah's birth mom, Kenyatta Harris. By the time that Christmas tablet arrived in the house, Ziyah had already been trained to delete everything. Annette was monitoring a device that was empty because a grown man, not even a man, a grown slug, had spent months teaching a 12-year-old, because at the time she was 12, to erase his tracks. His tracks. That is what grooming does. It doesn't just abuse a child, it makes the abuse invisible to everyone trying to see it. Ziyah celebrated her 12th birthday on September 24th of 2022. 3 days later, this scumbucket sent her a message telling her to meet him in the basement, take off her panties, and this part matters, make sure she erased the messages afterward. She was 12. 12, you guys. He was in his late 30s, like 38, 39 at the time. Think about that.
Wood chipper.
Yeah. He was teaching her to hide it from first contact. Now, this is Police Sergeant Jones, and this was at the hearing because they had a preliminary hearing to see if they would hold him over on charges. And what followed was systematic grooming campaign as she read message by message into the court record by Sergeant Shannon Jones at this preliminary examination. This isn't a story of a teenager who got involved with the wrong man. It's the story of a child being methodically controlled. She was isolated and exploited by an adult who knew exactly what he was doing because it wasn't his first time. By March 2023, he was pressuring her to stop talking to others and just be with him. By June, his texts revealed he was inside her home while she was at school. He even said he had stolen her underwear. He had access to her home, unsupervised, unquestioned. Put a pin in that. That's important. Those comments about him being in her home. By late June of 2023, the text messages made it clear that their contact had already become sexual, adult, and he was managing pregnancy risk. He already had all these other kids by all these other women. He knew the risks, but he continued anyway. July of 2023, Ziyah, a 13-year-old girl, woke up at 3 a.m. wondering if she could be pregnant. 13.
Wow.
That day, she had no pads for her period and no one to ask. So she texted the slime bucket, and he responded with a single letter. She had no one else to turn to. That's not a relationship. And that infuriated me listening to some of these women on the news saying, well, her relationship with him. No, she was a minor child. They don't have relationships. She could not consent. He is a child creeper. It's SA. No other ifs, ands, or buts about it. She's been thoroughly isolated from safe adults because the people in her home, they weren't safe. And she's going to her abuser for basic needs. Think about that. There's more hidden in the July texts that reveal how deep this man's true character goes, or the slugs. On July 29th, 2023, Slime Bucket told Ziyah he wouldn't come to pick her up. He wouldn't come pick up his own daughter that day so that the two of them could be alone. And that was the thing, was Shannon would send her daughter and Ziyah to go clean his shop. He was a mechanic and had his own business with a coworker. Think about that. She was sending two little girls to go clean a shop for a child creeper. Yeah. And it was later found out his daughter was one of the victims. So he wasn't only abusing Ziyah in this house, he was also SAing his own child. And he was using time away from one victim to spend with the other. And keeping them both in the dark about it. Think about it.
I think I'm going to be sick.
I know. Fala might need her Uber to come early. But this slime bucket was grooming Ziyah inside her home. People outside did try to raise the alarm. There were records with CPS of complaints going back to 2015. Nearly a decade of concerns about possible SAing and physical abuse and also living conditions in this home that this child was living in. And this is her great, that's Ziyah. She was a beautiful child. Beautiful. Mark, you're right. He belongs under the prison. But this is her great aunt and her cousin, They made complaints. They contacted CPS. They were not quiet. And the most serious complaint actually was filed back in April 13th of 2022. Ziyah was 11. A child at a birthday party accused the slime bucket of SA. And Ziyah was identified as a victim too. So you know that puts the other victim as one of his kids. Yeah. The complaint explicitly stated he had inappropriately touched Ziyah. CPS received it. They interviewed the slug, who denied everything.
Well, of course.
They conducted a forensic interview with one alleged victim, the one that complained. Then they closed the case, saying it was low risk. They never questioned Ziyah once. Not once. So you have a complaint naming an 11-year-old girl as a potential victim of SA by a man already on the registry. You interview him, but you don't interview both victims. And your conclusion is low risk. Those people need to lose jobs. I'm calling it out. They need to lose their job.
Well, they didn't consider Ziyah as a victim at all, right?
Well, no, she was in the report. They just didn't bother to talk to her.
Oh,
yeah. They talked to him and he denied it. Yeah. The guy on the registry that did over 8 years in prison, I'm going to take his word.
Oh, yeah. Because he's a fine, upstanding gentleman.
Yeah. So how do you look at that file, his prior conviction, his registry status, a child's name in the complaint, and you call it low risk without ever speaking to the child? 5 months later, in September of 2022, the text messages started between him and Ziyah. So he touched her 3 months earlier, but he didn't start texting her until 3 months after that incident. Because nothing came of it. See, so CPS had her name in a complaint, but nobody asked her any questions. Do you think if maybe they would have talked to that poor little girl, maybe she would have had a clue of what was going on and could have stood up and said something? Yeah, maybe. We'll never know. And 5 months after that window closed, this convicted sex offender sent her his first message, telling her to take off her panties and delete evidence. The cousin filed more independent complaints 2 months after the first, in June of 2022. She told investigators she was 90% sure SA was happening, and she specifically named the slug. CPS's response: another face-to-face with the slug, another forensic interview, no disclosures, the home looked clean, and another low-risk designation. Closed. None of the 5 complaints filed over nearly a decade were ever substantiated.
That's the thing where they label that completely wrong. I mean,
Yes.
Because they put 2 words as the result of their findings, and only one of them apply. He was a risk.
He was
Period.
a risk.
End of discussion.
Mm-hmm. He had been to prison, people, for this. Yeah. And you're going to say he's low risk if he's getting accusations? Please. The Detroit police also received law enforcement notification from CPS regarding the 2022 incident. They investigated. They questioned one child listed in the report, but not Ziyah. They never asked Ziyah what happened to her. The Detroit police later admitted to 7 News Detroit that they failed to investigate the 2022 claim involving Ziyah. In their own words, they could have done better. A lot of good that does that child. How many more have you failed? Is my question, because I have questions. How many more reports have you people ignored? How many more victims are there?
Too many to count, I would imagine.
Yes. Louise, you're right. They didn't deem them worthy. They also acknowledged only recently did they change procedures to investigate every name listed in a CPS alert. Duh. A procedural change that came too late for Ziyah. One of the family members who filed the early complaints said she was brokenhearted because all of it could have been prevented. All of it. And you know what? She's right. By September of 2023, Ziyah's period hadn't started since her August hospitalization for severe stomach pain. She was 13. She was scared. She texted the slug asking him to sneak her a pregnancy test into the house. She started asking him because she said it's hard doing the working, at school, doing the gym stuff. She says, with this baby, because she was pretty sure she was pregnant. She was asking him to bring her plan B because she didn't want to be pregnant. And she kept repeating that, but he never brought it to her. She was still going to school. She was still taking gym class. Think about that. That poor little girl. Now, these are the twins. This is Shannon and her sister Markeisha. And Markeisha also lived at the house at times with her child. So in this house, you have all these women, Annette, Shannon, Markeisha. They've all had kids, numerous children. And nobody suspected this little girl was pregnant. By November of 2023, evidence showed that the slug knew Ziyah was pregnant. She was 13. His phone records told the rest of the story, you guys. He was searching for herbal abortion tea, the abortion pill, how to use it. Then on December 11th of 2023, he searched, can I drink red antifreeze? Twice. This is not a man trying to get medical help for a child that's expecting a baby. This was a man trying to make a problem disappear. A pregnancy that would link him to a 13-year-old. A pregnancy that, if discovered, would expose years of abuse, violate his parole, and send him back to prison, where he had already been for essaying a child. He knew exactly what was at stake, and he was searching for a way out.
Well, he would go to prison if somebody in authority actually did their job.
Yes. Now, this woman was at his hearing. She was supposedly his fiance at the time, who had minor children. Yeah. Honey, he wasn't interested in you. He wasn't interested in all these women, and they were all around the same neighborhood. He was interested in your daughters, your children. He put up with all of you, but what he was after was the children.
Mm-hmm.
And she knew about Shannon and her 5 kids, and she knew about the other one, Angel. Someone wrote on one of the Facebooks, I wasn't able to confirm it, that he supposedly has like 13 kids. I don't know. Who knows? But so she knew about the other women. And like I said, she had her own children. And she was growing suspicious of him because he protected his phone. He would never let her look at it. And so, but every time, even with her Aunt Shannon and with this woman, every time Ziyah's name is mentioned, their facial features changed. Like they were PO'd. They were mad because they were in competition with a child. A pretty little girl, but a child. So they knew what was happening. You will never get me to not think that. Allegedly. They had to suspect that something was jealousy. Exactly. And here she suspects the man she's supposedly going to marry And now you're hearing about this little girl missing, and you're driving him to supposedly turn himself in. But you're still in his orbit, hanging out? Why? The minute you heard he could have been had something to do with a 13-year-old disappearing, you didn't walk away? Please. You know, that's what he did. He kept these people close. And they would doubt themselves, I guess. I don't know. It just blew my mind. But on January 9th of 2024, Ziyah went to school. This is her on the bus. It's not a great picture. The same way she always did. She had a Rugrats puffy jacket with a fur-lined hood, light blue jeans, her clear framed glasses, her hair in 2 braided puffs, balls, and the black hoodie and Annette had bought her, so it was fairly new, still in good condition. This is surveillance video of her getting, on the bus. And then there is also the surveillance, or this is the puffy jacket, a close-up. And if you look at her face looks a little fuller. When women get pregnant, they gain weight. And you're going to tell me these 3 women in this house did not notice this child who looked like, a little toothpick, all of a sudden was putting on some weight? Yeah, okay. You keep telling yourself that, ladies. I won't even call you ladies because you're not. So then we have the video. You can barely see her. She's right beside this black car. This is her after she's leaving school at the end of the day. She gets off the school bus and she's walking. That's the last video we have of Ziyah Harris. Because at 2:21 that afternoon, she sent what would be her final message to the slug. Don't forget, be there before 3. I will let you know when I'm leaving the school. If you're not there, I will wait. Send okay if you've seen the message so I can delete your number. Even at the very end, she's protecting him. That training had kicked in. She's deleting that evidence, covering the tracks. Because he trained her to do that since she was 12. And he replied, okay. Now she met up with the slug and a coworker and went to the auto repair shop on Connor Street where he worked, because this was one of his places. Now, one of the people that also testified was his sister. This is Tawana Butts. And that day, she was having trouble with her car. So she had called him and asked him if he could look at it. So she drove it over to his shop. And she said she saw this little girl walking around the shop, getting in and out of his pickup. Or not, I don't think it was a pickup, it was a car. Walking to the nearby, there was a gas station where she could get snacks. And so she's walking all around. Think about it. And at one point, she even followed the little girl to the gas station because she needed to use the restroom. I guess they must not have had a restroom in the shop. Now, she did ask her brother who the child was, and he said it was his coworkers, and his nickname was King. He was known by King. It was his niece. So she said she believed him. But here's what Tawana knew. Her brother was a registered sex offender. He'd done time for essaying a child. She said she had been essayed as a child. Now, I'm not saying it was him. She never says. But I'm thinking, why would you not be more suspicious watching this kid climbing in and out of Jarvis's vehicle all afternoon? That didn't make you ask questions? I have questions. Why? Why would this little girl be hanging out in a shop with these 2 grown men? Who is this child?
It just goes a long way to reaffirm my belief that people are just warped. I mean, they just don't have the sense that God gave them.
Yeah, exactly. And this wasn't Neziah's first time there, because we know that she would go there with Shannon's daughter so that they could clean the place. Yeah. Now, the interesting thing, remember I told you to pin that thought about him being in and out of the house? At the trial, or the hearing, to the preliminary hearing, Annette testified that she knew Neziah had gone with the slug's daughter to clean the auto repair shop on East Warren. He picked them up in a white truck. She knew about those visits, but she also said that he didn't have access to her in some of her statements. She said he did, whenever he would come to the house to see his children, Shannon would take them outside to meet him. He wouldn't come in the house. And Shannon said the same thing on the stand. But yet there is video on YouTube and Facebook showing them having birthday parties for the kids and them talking to the slug as he's in the house for these parties. And we saw he was texting Neziah that he would be in the house. So, liars. I'm sorry. They're liars. Now, in even Shannon's own text from December 3rd, she texted the slug and said, "Do you still need her too?" Because she was confirming arranging a shop visit 5 weeks before Neziah disappeared. He also had a second location on Connor Street for a garage. And phone data places Neziah there between 3:45 and 5:16 on January 9th. So she was at the second location. Now, she had asked her Aunt Shannon about that address and how to get there, if she knew where it was. So Shannon knew. And on the night her granddaughter didn't come home, Annette supposedly drove around the neighborhood and then went back home. She never went to the slug's shops, even though they knew that at times she frequented them to clean. She never called the cops. She went home. This is a child that never missed school, that came straight home. And the one time she doesn't, you kind of drive around the neighborhood and then go home. Now, from personal experience, I can tell you there were times in my childhood when I would take off. We lived in a small town. I would take off to go play. And my mama would have to come looking for me, which was not a good thing when mama has to come looking for you. But, it was still a little bit light out. I didn't think I had to be home yet. Learned very quickly that, don't make mama come looking for you. Not a good thing. And this was a little girl that usually followed the rules. Look at how quickly he was able to train her to follow his rules. And you didn't even bother to contact anybody. This is the first time in her life she did not come home. At 9:30 that night, the slug checked into a motel. There's a receipt. His phone confirms that he went there, and Ziyah has never been seen again. Now, when Annette Harris realized Ziyah hadn't come home the next day, she went to the school. And she didn't call the police, but she reported it to the school officer. The first official report was filed on the morning, supposedly, of January 10th. She'd been missing for 12 hours. And they went to the Detroit Public Schools Police Department. And they let it sit there for a month on their desk. This is a child that had never, ever missed school or had an unexplained absence, ever. And none of you did a thing. The school, none of you. It wasn't until early February 2024 that the Detroit PD's Missing Persons and Homicide Unit took it over. And that was that Sergeant Shannon Jones who got the case on February 12th. 24 years on the department. By the time it reached her, a lot of surveillance that would be on storefronts or even some homes or that gets overwritten. The window had passed on a lot of cameras along Ziyah's route. That's why they only have that one footage of her. So Sergeant Jones was a month behind before she even got started. But what she did was one of the most comprehensive investigations that city had ever seen. And let's give Sergeant Shannon Jones a shout out, because that woman took this case and she worked it. She coordinated searches over Yeslippy area. It's in Detroit, you guys. I cannot pronounce that. Anyway, it's part of that area with over 60 personnel. And she was using the mapping of the slug's devices. She executed search warrants on his home, his vehicles, and oh, that's King. That was the other dude that poor little girl was hanging out with. Yeah. And you think, what? That just gives me the shivers. But yeah, this was the searches. They recovered electronics, an ID, and multiple firearms after they ran a check on him. He had a long gun and 2 handguns. Now remember, Sluggo here is a convicted felon and a registered offender. He had no legal right to have guns.
So he doesn't get to have a gun.
Yeah.
Period.
The phone that would become the evidentiary center of this case was hidden in a Cadillac belonging to one of his associates. And so actually, Sluggo called Jones because he got arrested. And he told Jones where it was and to go find it. Well, thankfully, jail's kind of like listen to your calls and record them, because he turned himself in on this gun charge. And so they went ahead and found him, and King went and got the gun as he'd been told to, because he was trying to make sure that none of his baby mamas found it. And Jones tracked the car. She executed a search warrant, and she found the iPhone exactly where the slug had told King it would be. They called 911 from the phone, and it came back to the slug. So that's how they knew. More than 20 search warrants were executed in total. They had dive teams because there was a river nearby, cadaver dogs, state police, helicopters, specialized teams cutting through log jams in the river. Because you got to remember, this is, the ending of wintertime. So they searched the Rogue. I don't know if it's the Rogue River. Yeah, I think it's called the Rogue River corridor, the retention ponds, abandoned properties, every wooded area surrounding Henry Ford High School. They did find clothing at the 7 Mile and Berg Road, an area that the slug's phone had already mapped to. This was a former abandoned golf course. The Rogue River runs directly behind it. The community volunteers spotted a pair of red and black Nike shoes, a black hoodie, and Jones's team was searching for different colored items based on the initial description. So the shoes were logged, but nobody collected them right away. The break came, though, because one of the volunteers had posted a photo online, and Ziyah's brother saw it, and he sent Jones a photo of Ziyah wearing the exact shoes. So she directly went to the GPS coordinates and retrieved them. I'm thinking, okay, if you people found this when they were searching, why they weren't retrieved immediately, I don't know. Just another thing that got skipped over. They also found the black hoodie and a pink jumpsuit nearby. The hoodie was wet. It had holes in the hood area that Jones testified, she said, were consistent in her experience with wounds made through clothing. Now, Annette Harris did testify that she had bought that hoodie herself for Ziyah. It was fairly new in good condition. There were no holes. So now it's found on the bank of the Rogue River. The last person who could tell you it was new was the woman who bought it. She told you it was new. These are the holes. Now, the forensic analysis who examined this hoodie, she didn't work from visual impressions or general conditions of the garment. She worked stain by stain, more than 38 numbered stains across the entire surface. She used 3 separate screening methods before anything was confirmed. Testing was done. An alternate light source to screen for bloody fluids, an infrared scan specifically designed to detect blood on dark fabric, a chemical presumptive test. The front of the hoodie showed extensive indicators across a large area. At least 3 stains on the right shoulder. The lower back exterior and a 3rd site returned presumptive positive results for human blood. The 2 strongest were sent to Michigan State Police Crime Laboratory for DNA analysis. The defense suggested the hoodie's condition, it was wet, there were spider webs, holes of unknown origin, made it evidentiary value speculative. But the analysis, that person just dismantled that directly. She was not working off the condition of the garment. She said she was working stain by stain. And the DNA came back to Ziyah. So you can sit there and complain all you want that maybe there were some spider webs on it, but Ziyah's DNA was on it. On September 27th of 2024 is when they finally filed the charges of first-degree premeditated deletion, child SA commercial activity, second-degree criminal sexual conduct involving a person under 13. In the press release, Prosecutor Worthy did not mince words. She said the evidence, she said, would clearly show that the defendant's actions were not merely predatory, but they were vulturous, that he groomed and preyed upon Ziyah with expertise, and that he deleted her after learning she was pregnant at 13 with his child. The Wayne County Prosecutor's Office had reviewed 111 gigabytes of video, 506 gigabytes of phone extractions, and 19 gigabytes of documents. That's a little bit of information there. And all of it came to the same conclusion. Ziyah Harris was deleted by the slug. And that hearing, it was kind of wild because Annette and Shannon, they just kept telling stories. It was like they were trying to protect. In fact, at one point, you guys, when they asked Annette, because, and I forgot to put those pictures in here, when they were in the hearing, instead of most defendants, sitting at the table with their lawyers, he sat behind his lawyers and he had a face mask on, like he thought he was going to get COVID. This was 2024. So when they asked Annette, do you see, the slug? They didn't call him the slug. It's just my special name for him.
Are you sure?
I don't know. I might have to rewatch that. That would have been funny. But she goes, I don't see him. And then she said something about her glasses. So they went and got her glasses. Lady, you're coming into a courtroom. You know what this man looks like. And they give her glasses. They tell her to stand up again. And finally, she points him out. And I mean, she was looking all over like, yeah, where do you think he would be? Like maybe at the defense table, even though he was sitting behind his attorneys. Please. And even, a couple of people did that where they acted like they didn't know where he was. It drove me crazy. And so truthfully, Annette was caught lying on the stand. I'm sorry. Her saying that he never came into the house when they have video of him in the house. But the one person that you can count on in this trial was Judge Sabri. Oh man, she just had no nonsense about her. I liked this judge. The preliminary hearing lasted for 4 days. And the reason they really had it was because there was no body. And Judge Aaliyah Sabri of the 36th District Court presided over every piece of evidence, every witness, every detail of what this man had done to a 13-year-old child. And when it was over, she didn't reach for careful judicial language. She literally, from her chair, called him a monster. She called him the true definition of a pedophile, and she ruled that the slug would stand trial for the deletion of Ziyah Harris. A jury would hear this case, and Ziyah would finally have her day in court. The judge didn't pull punches. I liked her a lot. Yeah, Simi, she did let him have it. Now, as he was sitting there awaiting his trial, the scope of the destruction continued to expand because in July of 2025, Prosecutor Worthy filed additional charges connecting him to SA in Allen Park in the spring of 2013. Remember, that's the year he got out of jail after being in prison for over 8 years. The victim was 12 at the time. Are you seeing a pattern? She's now 24, and for over a decade, she carried what was done to her in silence. Ziyah's case brought her forward. The slug was charged with first-degree and third-degree criminal sexual conduct and given a $500,000 bond. And he was not a man who slipped up once. He was a man who spent decades hunting children, different cities, different years, different families. The only thing that ever stopped him has been prison. And even that didn't stop him because the minute he got out, he kept going. On February 12th of 2026, just weeks before he was scheduled to go to trial, the slug entered a guilty plea across 6 separate cases. In Ziyah Harris's case, he pleaded guilty to second-degree deletion. Not premeditated, not first degree, second degree. And that distinction matters, you guys, a lot. He also pled guilty to 4 counts of second-degree criminal sexual conduct involving minors, 1 count of third-degree criminal sexual conduct. Multiple other charges across the 6 cases were dismissed as part of the agreement. One condition stood apart from all the legal mechanics. Butts was required to make a truthful statement about the location of Ziyah Harris's body. It still hasn't been found. Now, when he went to trial, or when he went to his hearing, of course, he had his face mask on again. So bashful. I hope he makes friends in prison. But Judge Nicholas J. Hathaway in Wayne County, 3rd Circuit Court, wearing, and here he was in his little green outfit and his paper mask. They had multiple officers with security. And the judge acknowledged before the proceedings that this was not a routine sentencing. 7 people gave witness impact statements, and the room could barely contain it. Annette was one of the first to speak, and she told the court her life would never be the same. She has depression so heavy she couldn't get out of bed. People are driving past her home to take pictures, her address and her phone number circulating on social media. There are threats, strangers at her door, GoFundMe pages opened in Ziyah's name without her permission, podcast shows. Yeah, we're doing another one. Emails. As she read, someone in the gallery yelled at her to shut up. Some say it was Shannon. I don't know. But a couple of people got drug out. Multiple people were escorted out of this hearing. Her statement was so difficult to finish that an attorney completed it out loud while she returned to her seat. But the clearest parts of her statement describe what this had done to her, not Ziyah. And that's what bugged me. Because it was like, oh, people are starting GoFundMes in her name. What? You're afraid you're not getting the money? People are calling us driving by our house. Boo-hoo.
Well, you kind of knew it was all about her, but when she when she let the creeper in the house, I mean that's just
Yeah.
plain and simple.
Yeah. And then the next one of the next ones to talk would have been her Aunt Marquita, the twin to Shannon. And she stood and said what needed to be said. She said, since January 9th of 2024, I have to remind myself every morning, day, and month, and every hour that my niece isn't coming back. I will never hear her voice. I will never physically touch her. I will never see her smile. I will never get to listen to her tell me about her school day. I will never get that chance again because of you. Ziyah, in Makita's words, was someone she loved specifically by name and by memory. But I'm thinking, where were you when this was going on in that house? It is said on Facebook, I have not confirmed, so allegedly she has lost custody of her children. I don't know, but that is something that's been put out in the air. We'll have to see if it stands up. Next, the person that said she wasn't planning on coming, but she did, was his sister, Tawana Butts. And she went back. She says, I go back to that afternoon on January 9th, seeing Ziyah at the shop, a little girl she didn't know who looked okay at the time, who she had no reason, she said, to worry about. She said that day will haunt her for the rest of her life. She says, I'm here today for Ziyah and for my nieces and for the other victims that my brother has harmed. She talked about the children he abused. She said we need to do better as a community and protect our children from monsters, from the very people that are supposed to love them. She acknowledged her own history as a survivor of SA. She said being a victim made her want to protect children, not harm them. Then she looked directly at her brother and she said, you have to do what's right. I can't turn off my feelings. I hate what you've become and I hate what you've done, but I do love you. And she told him that he has to tell them where Ziyah is. You have to do what's right. So in a courtroom full of people, his own sister spoke Ziyah's name, because the others weren't talking about Ziyah's name. They were just, So, I mean, truthfully, she did give one of the better statements, even though I have questions, because Tawana, you said you had no reason to worry when you saw a little girl at your brother's shop. You didn't know her. She looked okay, but your brother is on the Michigan sex offender registry for essaying a minor child and had already been in prison. And you say you care about children being victims, but yet you didn't speak up.
Well, unfortunately, it becomes an issue where, in certain circles, I'm not, picking on anybody, but in certain circles, if it's almost like they become used to that kind of behavior, it's outrageous, it's sickening, but it's not unexpected.
And I think that's why so strongly I'm saying, if you have a child creeper in your family, they should no longer be in your family.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. They should never be allowed a family function. They shouldn't be allowed in your home. If you have a child creeper in your family, you need to do some thinking, because they don't get better. They just get old and become old creepers.
Yeah. Like I said earlier, got the herd.
Yeah. And the fact that really bugs me is when Tawana was, at the garage and she was going to the restroom, she said that Ziyah was walking ahead of her going to the same gas station. Why wouldn't you try and catch up and say, hey, little girl, what's your name? I would have, because I would have been bored sitting there waiting on my brother to look at my vehicle. I'm sorry. I would have started a conversation with the child. Why wouldn't you? See, I have questions. She walked past this little girl, didn't say anything. I mean, I'm glad she showed up at the sentencing, and it did take courage for her to do. But it really would have been nice if on that same day, on January 9th of 2024, if she would have had some courage. And maybe it's given her the courage now that she sees she needs to say more. I don't know. Well, all we can do is say thank you for at least showing up and speaking her name.
Yep.
You know, and think about it. If the people closest to him, his own sister, they knew exactly what he was. She knew he had several baby mamas. How could you look past that little girl? Okay. Well, like I said, get them out. Now, Jalen White submitted her statement in writing because she said she wasn't sure she could survive a panic attack in the courtroom. She was one of the ones that had reported her essay later. And she's even been hospitalized. She said she went years without thinking about the slug until Ziyah's case brought it all back. And she made one thing that had to happen is that when he abused her in 2014, he knew what he was doing. He knew he harmed her. He knew the consequences, and he did it anyway. In her letter, she told the court she would be present at every single parole hearing, no matter where life takes her. And then there was a statement that may be the most devastating detail in the entire case. His own daughter stood before the court and addressed her father directly. She told him he took someone she really loved, someone she called a sister, her favorite cousin, her best friend, her everything. She told him he changed the way she dresses, the way she thinks, the way she sees herself. She no longer looks at him as a father or a hero. She looks at him as a monster. And this is his own child who was his victim, standing in front of that courtroom, telling him to his face what he had done to her. Now, Judge Hathaway sentenced him to 35 to 60 years on the second-degree deletion charge, with credit for time served. 10 to 15 years on each of the 5 criminal sexual conduct charges. All sentences run concurrently. The murder or the deletion sentence controls it. So lifetime electronic monitoring on the sexual conduct cases. He settled 6 separate cases, 4 different children that were victims. But he has the opportunity to eventually be released. They said he would be a registered sex offender. Like, what? That would do any good? He already was.
Yeah. Oh,
I mean, okay. Ziyah's name is proof of exactly how much that protected her. And part of the plea agreement was he was required to provide a truthful statement about the location of her body before the plea was accepted. Now, Prosecutor Worthy confirmed at sentencing that the statement had been given. She says, "We are satisfied with the statement he has given. He told them he put her in the river where they had been searching all along. She still hasn't been recovered." And with some of these rivers, I know talking with Lisa Yellowbird Chase, when she goes on some of her searches, sometimes the river is very evil and cruel and does not give up its victims. So I don't know if we will ever be able to recover the child. But this is the question Ziyah's family is sitting with tonight, and it deserves a direct answer, not a comfortable one. What the plea accomplished. The slug is off the street for decades. 6 cases, 6 sets of victims resolved in one proceeding. His other victims were spared having to testify in public, and he was compelled as a condition of his freedom to discuss what he knows about Ziyah's location. But Prosecutor Worthy's office said they are satisfied with the statement, but here's what the plea costs. The original charge was first-degree premeditated deletion, and in Michigan, that means life without the possibility of parole. And the evidence supported it. A man who groomed a child, impregnated her, spent weeks researching how to end the pregnancy, then deleted her to cover it up. That's premeditation. That's first degree. But the slug pleaded to was second degree under that sentence. He's eligible for parole in 35 years. He's 42. He'll be 77 before he sits before a parole board. And that brings something we need to say plainly on this show. Child predators should not get plea deals. Full stop. Because 77-year-old child predators just become old child predators. They're still child creepers. Ziyah Harris didn't get a plea deal. She didn't get a negotiated outcome. She didn't get a reduced sentence for the life that was stolen from her. She was 12, 13 when he took it. She was 12 when he sent his first messages to her. 13 when she disappeared. She got a life sentence, and she didn't commit a single crime. So when the system turns around and offers a person who did that a negotiated reduction, we have to ask who that system was built to protect. If we know that child predator reoffended, and I mean, he reoffended immediately after he got out of jail for being in prison over 8 years. There's no argument. So why are we giving them off-ramps? He left prison in 2012 and was SAing another child in 2013. The system knew who he was, and they still opened up the door and said, hey, come on in. If a plea deal must happen, and we understand that protecting other victims from testifying sometimes does drive those decisions, then at minimum, it should come with a mandatory public allocution. He should have to say in court what he did, but he didn't. He doesn't get to give a private statement handed to a prosecutor in a back room. It should be spoken on the record account in open court in front of the family that wants to hear it, what they did, to whom, and where, so that the victims and the public hear the predator say it in their own words, with no way for him to walk it back. The slug provided a statement about where he put her, but that statement was not made in open court. It was not even spoken to her family. It's not part of the public record. Prosecutor Worthy said they are satisfied with what he gave them. Really? Do you think her family's really satisfied? There is a gap between legal satisfaction and human justice. And for a family like Ziyah's, that gap's everything. It is likely he gets out at 77. I doubt. Because like that one woman said, she said, I will be there at every parole hearing. Ziyah's family, her great aunt that had spoke up, and her cousin that had made, CPS calls, they said they will keep fighting every step of the way. But it's not the same as never. That means every year or couple of years you have to go and speak again. Mustang, you're right. You cannot rehabilitate them. And for every victim who will leave the rest of their life with what he did to them, those other victims, they carry that. That sentence that carries any possibility of release is a door that should never exist for them. His own daughter was one of his victims. How many more do we not even know about? The child he was supposed to protect, his own, he abused. So there's no measure that costs a person. There's no sentence that puts this right. None. Ziyah Harris is gone. She hasn't been found. And every person who knew or should have known that the slug was a danger to children, every CPS investigator who marked his file low risk, every officer who received a notification and didn't follow it to Ziyah's door, every adult who placed that child in proximity to a convicted sex offender, none of them are standing before a judge, and they should be. If she was blonde and blue-eyed and white, would it be different? We have to ask. Shannon Harris, her own aunt, testified that seeing the message on Ziyah's tablet was shocking. Now, see, they said they didn't see no messages, but now she's saying she saw shocking messages that she had no idea Really? But in an earlier community live stream, she confirmed she had known he was a sex offender from the moment she met him. He told her himself. And she still had children with him. Yeah. Even asked if he needed Ziyah at his shop. Was making arrangements for Ziyah to go over there. Those two accounts, they don't reconcile. You saw messages on her tablet, but before you handed it to the police, you called the slug. He said it was probably the kids that did it, and you accepted that answer, while a 13-year-old girl was missing. By January 21st, 12 days after she disappeared, you were texting her abuser, "I don't know what I believe anymore." Shannon had already seen the messages. You had already connected the dots, and you were still in contact with him. I don't care if he was your baby daddy. Ziyah's family has questions about that too. Her aunt, her great aunt, and her cousin. They are calling for accountability from every institution that failed her. The Detroit police acknowledged they missed their chance. CBS has acknowledged the prior complaints. Whether that acknowledgement ever becomes accountability remains to be seen. What about the school police officer that just let that sit there on his desk and didn't bother contacting the regular police? This was a child. You had her records. You knew she never missed. Why were all the adults supposedly in the room not doing what adults should be doing? The squeaky wheel gets the oil. That is what one legal expert told them outside the courtroom. He said, "Don't stop." They said they don't plan to. But let's go over our missing people. We have 3 of them tonight. Remember, you can save a life. Remember the faces. Some leave voluntarily, but others safely can't come home. Something happens. And some don't have a choice, because we know human trafficking and missing people's cases happen everywhere and to everyone. And victims often go unnoticed. The person you pass could be someone's missing family member. Trust your instincts. If you recognize anyone from today's cases or see something that doesn't sound right, call 911. Don't assume someone else is doing it. If you prefer not to contact the police, we have tips, the number 4, trialjunkiesunited@gmail.com. We'll be glad to pass the information for you. But it's not that big deal. It really isn't. And you have the power to save a life. So let's use it, people. This is Brian Joseph. Let's see. DeVoe? DeVoe.
DeVoe.
36. He's been missing since May 11th of 2024. He's from Canada. His last contact was with the RCMP on May 14th, 2024 in Moncton, New Brunswick, Canada, approximately 1:45 a.m. near Albert Street. He's 5'9". He weighs 176 pounds. He has brown eyes, brown hair, and he is indigenous Métis. He has tattoos on the left side of his neck, a demon skull with Indian headdress, right side of his neck, a skull with a crown and wings with EST 87. On his right wrist, he has a rose, a heart banner, robin with tribal flames. Right wrist, he has tribal design. Left wrist, tribal red star, green tribal on top. Both ears are pierced. His lip is pierced. His left eyebrow is pierced. The case number is 2024887923. He goes by BJ or BJ spelled out. Okay. Contact the RCMP at 506-857-2400. Now, Brian had no fixed address at the time he was reported missing, but he stayed in contact with his sister, and all of a sudden that stopped on May 14th of 2024. He hasn't been seen or heard from since, and for someone who stays in regular contact, because a lot of people that kind of live in a transient lifestyle, they usually have that one person they stay in contact with. So when that stops, something is wrong. That silence is out of character for him. They've checked local hospitals, shelters, have been searched with no results. and his phone has been disconnected. So the family is very concerned. Now, this is Diamond Joy Frank. She's 24. She's been missing since February 12th of 2026, Anchorage, Alaska. She's 5 foot tall and weighs 130 pounds, has black hair and brown eyes. She's also living a transient life at this time. She has a tattoo of a red diamond on her left side of her face. This photo is actually from May 1st of 2023, so she might not look exactly like this, but really look at her face. Contact the Anchorage Police Department at 907-786-8900, case number 265087. She has a NamUs number, M as Michael, P as in Paul, 156756. The Alaska State Troopers you can contact at 907-269-5511. Their case number is A as in Apple, K as in Kite, 2602-4472. And remember, just because someone lives a transient lifestyle does not mean we should not be looking for them. When they lose contact with family members that they normally contact, something is wrong. They need help. So let's keep that in mind. This one breaks my heart. Jocelyn Josh
Musso.
She's 14. March 18th, 2026, from Sioux Falls, South Dakota. They said she could have traveled to Rapid City. She has piercings in her right nostril and her ears, and her hair may have been dyed purple. She was last seen wearing dark washed ripped jeans, a red Nike shirt, and a black zip-up. Contact Sioux Falls Police Department at 605-367-7000 or the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, 1-800-843-5678. Let's bring these guys home. We need some good news. But let's be clear about what this slug did, because the word predator, we use it a lot and it loses weight sometimes, but he was convicted of criminal sexual conduct involving a child in 2004, 8 years in Michigan State Prison over that. He was paroled in 2012. By 2013, he was abusing a 12-year-old in Allen Park. By 2014, another victim. And these are only the ones that came forward, you guys. He was on the sex offender registry the entire time, publicly searchable, available to every adult in Ziyah's life. Her aunt had been told by him herself when they started their relationship. Remember, you can, I have a thing where I actually get notifications of people on the sex registry if they move into our area. There are things you can do. Check it out. He didn't go after strangers. He didn't need to, because he groomed adults first. He befriended and partnered with them. He even had children with some of them. And for all of you single parents, whether you're male or female, if you have someone that you have brought into your life, really check that person out before you introduce them to your children, because you don't know what you're letting in the front door. Now, this guy, they should have known, because it was all over. Everybody in the neighborhood knew this dude.
Well, he admitted it himself.
Yeah. And once he took up with these women, he shifted his attention to the daughters. That was what he was interested in. Mm-hmm. And Prosecutor Worthy stated he targeted and befriended women specifically to gain sexual access to their young daughters. He was doing this while CPS reports sat in a file with his name, remained on a registry, and while people responsible for protecting Ziyah convinced themselves it would be all right. He groomed her 3 days after her 12th birthday, training her to delete messages from the beginning. He isolated her, making himself her only confidant for basic needs, like even pads for her period. He taught her to cover for him, protect him, and make space for him in a house full of other women. That's not opportunism, that's expertise. That's the method of someone who has done this many times and always gotten away with it. Because once he went to jail the first time, he came up with a better plan. And he kept illegal firearms as a convicted felon and registered sex offender. He researched antifreeze poisoning while a 13-year-old girl carried his child and begged him for Plan B. He was present the night she disappeared and checked into a motel at 9:30. Her clothing was found near where his phone indicated on the map. Her DNA was on the hoodie. Without any qualifying language, you guys, this was an apex predator. The system continuously gave him chances. The same was true for some of the adults in Ziyah's life. The child is gone. A sex offender had access to that child. Adults who knew, adults who allowed it, adults who smiled for birthday photos and then took the stand and told a different story. You do not get to do that. Not in the courtroom. Not in this community. Perjury is a felony. Fraud upon the court is a felony. Prosecutor Worthy, you need to do something. Criminal child abuse is a felony. Contributing to the neglect of a minor is a felony. And knowingly placing children near a high-risk registered sex offender while you are a parent, or also a licensed foster parent bound by the law. You signed agreements saying that you wouldn't make those kind of mistakes. It's a choice. And choices have consequences. So what we're seeing now is whether any of it will be used or if Ziyah Harris will be quietly set aside while those who failed her continue to walk free, because there were others involved in this by their neglect. We couldn't stay quiet because more people need to be looked at. She was beautiful. She was innocent. They were the adults in the room. She was the child. If you know something, say something. If you saw something, come forward. If you have been silent, understand that silence is not neutral. Silence is a choice. Ziyah paid the price for every choice that adults in her life made. Did she get justice? She was a little girl. She deserved protection to grow up and justice. Even with the sentence he received, I'm not sure it was true justice. And the others who helped conceal it, yeah. Remember, every killer and predator, they depend on your silence. Please don't give it to them. If you know something, speak up. Because it wasn't a mannequin. It never is. Remember, somebody knows something. Someone always does. And as our motto, silence is betrayal. If you have a story you want us to share, I know Patriotism gave me one I'm working on, and I'm still working on one for Miss Barbara. On Thursdays, we do our cases for MMIP, and on Sundays, we cover cold cases, trafficking, just any case that we feel needs attention. So thank you for coming tonight. I know we got a late start. We've run late. I thank you guys for hanging in with us. This was important. Ziyah deserved to be heard. You know, please, if you can, share this. You know, help us get more views on this because this is an important case. I still haven't got my TikTok account back. They suspended it. I've tried to do whatever. I might just have to. I tried to start another one. I don't know. I'm working on it. But, you know, do all that stuff that's important, the clicks, the likes, whatever. But until next time, you guys, just stay informed and stay compassionate and keep seeking the truth. Keep demanding justice. Never stop speaking up. Doc, do you want to say goodnight?
Good night, Doc.
And of course, we wrote a song for Ziyah. It was on the front. We also put it on the end because Doc liked both versions. I couldn't get it to say her name correctly, so otherwise her name would be in there. But the song is for Ziyah Harris. We will say her name. We said it through the show. So just say her name tonight, you guys, because she deserves it. We love you all. Remember, the criminals never stop, so neither do we. And until next time, you keep fighting for justice. We'll see you on Thursday. And ciao. Have a good night.
She was just a girl with a whole life ahead. Didn't realize the wolf was already fed. You saw him watching, you knew what he was, but you looked away. Yeah, that's what cowards do. He had a history, a record, a name. Every single person knew his game, but nobody called it, nobody spoke, and a little girl's life went up in smoke. Now all you can do is the walk of shame. That's on you, that's on you. You protected the predator, not the child. Now a voice is silenced and the truth runs wild. You carry his guilt like a stone on your chest. You chose his comfort over her life. Confess, all you can do is the walk of shame. He recognized the pattern, he's done this before. He made sure there would be no encore this time. No witness standing, no small voice left, just silence where there should have been breath. And you whisper, you turn blind. Tell me what kind of peace you find. You knew he liked them young, you knew his face, and you let him back in. That's your disgrace. Now all you can do is a walk of shame. That's on you, that's on you. You protected the predator, not the child. Now a voice is silenced and the truth runs wild. You carry his guilt like a stone on your chest. You chose his comfort over a life. Confess, all you can do is the walk of shame. Some of them called out, raising their voices, but those who held her, they made their choice. The ones who shared a table, shared her hall, said nothing, did nothing, let her fall. Four walls and silence, no place to hide. The ones who should have saved her let the monster inside. So now we rise up and say her name. We will not let her be erased by shame. We are the ones who will carry her light. We are the ones who will fight this fight. Protect the children, it ain't hard to do. Stand up and speak out when you know the truth. The predator depends on your silence to win. We are done, we will not let him in. Now all you can do is the walk of shame. That's on you, that's on you. We protected the children, you protected him. Now you live with that choice until the end. We carry her story, we carry her name, and all you can do is the walk of shame. Walk of shame. Walk of shame. Silence is betrayal. Every killer that pays